hypocritical pieces of shit seem to forget this. Well, I'm not gonna let you forget it. That's why I'm here, to tell you the truth.
Where the hell do I even start with this disaster of a console other than I told you so? I told you so. I told all of you. I mean, you can all fight and continue to argue and battle for as long as you wish, but in the end, you know I'm right. You just can't admit it because your pride won't allow you. Your silly, pathetic, useless pride over a piece of plastic and the incompetent company that represents it. So let's begin with what I like about this, because there's very little that I do like and a whole lot that I dislike. Let me start by saying this. If this was just a handheld, it would be a good system. Zelda, Mario, Disgaea, Shin Megami Tensei, and Dragon Quest on a handheld, that might actually be solid for Japan, and ultimately, that's nothing but a good thing. But that's when the good things end. This is not a dedicated handheld. This is a home console. And comparing this to a console is like comparing a 3DS to the Xbox 360 or the PlayStation 3. There's no comparison. I don't need to spend a whole lot of time talk about how horrific and cringeworthy this entire conference was presented with, but how anybody watching this with interest while having a woman in the same room would instantaneously end up single on the spot. It was that embarrassing. If you watched this conference with interest and had another woman in the same room with you, you would instantaneously be single on the spot. But when they showed the conference and what they showed at the conference was just downright horrible and deplorable. First, let's talk hardware. Again, this would be perfectly fine for a handheld, but remember, this is a console, a next generation console, and this console didn't show anything that looked like the Wii U couldn't handle itself. From the Wii U to the Switch, I have still yet to see one game or anything that looks better than Killzone and God of War 3 on the PlayStation 3. And don't hit me with the Nintendo doesn't do realistic graphics excuse, because Ratchet and Clank on PlayStation 4 is just as cartoony as a Mario game, and it looks freaking awesome. I don't like the game, but it looks awesome. Now, I have no words to even describe the debacle that these controllers are. These controllers are a freaking complete ripoff. $70 for a standard controller? That doesn't even come with the console? Excuse me? $70. That's what I have to pay to play a game the traditional way. Now you have $80 for a pair of those Play School size Joy-Cons. $80. So you go out and you buy that whack-ass game ARMS, and you want to play it with, I don't know, your brother, your sister, your friends, anybody in the dorms, your girlfriend, your roommates, whoever. You want to play that game locally, 2 players. You need to go out and spend $80 on another controller. $80. And then if you want one little Joy-Con, whether it's a left one or a right one, maybe you step on one, you lose one, you break one, $50. That's right, for one little Joy-Con, it's $50. And if you want the grip for them, so you can play it regularly, that's $30. So imagine you buying a pair of Joy-Cons for $80 and you want the grip for it. $110? Nintendo, are you freaking kidding me? Are you kidding me? Like, literally, all this controller amounts to being is a Wii U tablet with 2 detachable Wii Motion controllers on the side. They literally took 2 core gaming disasters and combined them into one controller. The Joy-Cons are literally the ends of a Wii U tablet. They are. Motion controls included, and oh hey, I can hold my Joy-Con And there's 1 ice in the cup, 2 cubes of ice in the cup. Oh, now I can shake it. And there's 3 cubes of ice in the cup. Why does that matter? How, like, insignificant was that? Like, mind-boggling. Mind blown. Now, the battery life at 6 hours is fine to me. I mean, they say at max it can probably, or I'm sorry, at minimum playing a max game like Zelda, it can last 3 hours, and again, I'm fine with that too. Because let's be serious, if you're playing a portable game for more than 3 hours straight, it might be time to reevaluate your life. Because nobody should be playing a portable game for 3 hours straight. And if you're inside your home, your apartment, your dorm, whatever, you can just plug it into the TV or plug it into the wall. Why you would need to be outside and playing a game for 3+ hours straight is beyond me. It really doesn't need to happen. Now, the one thing I will give Nintendo immense props for, because this is my biggest pet peeve in technology. The battery of the Switch is charged via a USB-C charging port, which again, I will give Nintendo immense props for. All companies need to fall in line. You need to get in line with that new European law that will force all manufacturers to use a standard micro USB, as nothing agitates me more than proprietary cables and ports. When I borrowed that Wii U to play Xenoblade Chronicles X, my friend lost a charging stand or whatever, the dock that charges the damn thing. Oh, you know what? Not a big deal. I'll just, plug in a USB. Oh, wait. Doesn't use a USB cable. Now it has a DS. The 3DS, nothing wants to use standard cables. If you just use standard cables and stop being greedy, and it gets even more frustrating when you're trying to buy older things or replace older things, and proprietary just needs to go. It just does. And speaking of which, micro SD XC cards. And again, I am happy that they are not proprietary, but at the same time, 32 gigabytes of storage. 32 gigabytes of storage. Can somebody please tell Nintendo it's 2017 and some games, when digitally downloaded, exceed that tiny welfare capacity of 32 gigabytes? I mean, games on my PC, often and easy, go over 32 gigs of internal storage. And you have the operating system. 32 gigs is never really 32 gigs. And you have other things in the background. You might have movies and Netflix and this and that. 32 gigabytes is absolutely nothing. This is supposed to be a next generation game console, and out of the box they don't even give you the capacity to download retail games. And when considering the cost of extra controllers and upgrading your storage space, this is already going to exceed the price of the PlayStation 4 Pro. And I understand that, they could have a standard hard drive or a SATA hard drive on the dock, but maybe that might be difficult when you take the machine on the go, because then you're disconnecting it from the hard drive, this, that, and the other. But again, regardless of the situation, 32 gigs is not enough. And after upgrading your storage and buying these overpriced peripherals and controllers, you are looking at a console that will most likely exceed the price of the PlayStation 4 Pro, a console that is leaps and bounds ahead of the Switch in performance and can run some games at 4K. And then the biggest cardinal sin, the biggest sin in gaming, Wi-Fi. Now, I can understand how the Switch itself doesn't have an Ethernet port, and you're going to play Wi-Fi on the portable end. But there is no excuse. There is absolutely no excuse of why the dock doesn't have an Ethernet port. And if it does, somebody please tweet me, write a comment, and correct me, because as of now I've not seen one, but I literally laugh when I see anybody gaming on Wi-Fi. Gaming on Wi-Fi is terrible. I refuse to do it. I won't do it. I would rather run a 100-foot cable across the floor than game on Wi-Fi. It's like taking the bus because you don't own a car. And speaking of gaming online, oh my goodness. Nintendo has got some nerve to start charging people to pay to play online. And before I even get into this topic in this part of the video, know this, that if you want to game online on the most superior online gaming platform, the free online gaming platform, you can't do it on a console anymore. Because these greedy companies in Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft will now all be charging you. You want to play online for free? Guess what? Get a PC. Now, the Switch's online is unproven. And I will give them that they're at least giving you some trial period from the launch until whenever they start charging, I believe, in the summer or fall. So we'll at least be able to see what they're going to offer before they actually start charging people. So you're not going to be blindly charged day one or whatever. But Nintendo's online has always been trash. It's always been limited. It's always been a joke. And yet now people are supposed to be cool paying for what we can all see. Hell, I'll bet money on it that it will clearly be something vastly inferior to the competition, whether it's Steam, Origin, Xbox Live, or even PSN. I mean, you have to download a dedicated smartphone app to connect to the Switch just to invite your friends to play online and talk to them. And guess what? That app costs money too. And one thing I am highly disappointed in Nintendo is, where is your achievement system? I want to know who is finishing their games. I want to know who is frauding with their games. Who is not completing and finishing their Zeldas. Who is only 4 hours in to Xenoblade Chronicles X. Achievements would have allowed us and allowed the community to be entertained at all these frauds that would rather damage control and corporate slave as opposed to actually, what's that thing people do? Oh yeah, play games. Play games, that's right. But speaking of games, enough about hardware. Let's talk about some games. You would think that with the complete and utter disgrace that was the Wii U, Nintendo would come out with some robust first-party launch lineup, second-party, with most importantly, a strong selection of third-party support so as to alleviate any doubts that this isn't your typical Nintendo console. But you're not dealing with the average console, people. Oh no. You're dealing with the legend. Yeah, the legend of Nintendo. Because once again, Nintendo never learns. You could have had EA port over Battlefield 1. You never had that game. Hell, you could have given Titanfall 2, which was a game that should have sold more, but didn't. You could have had that game brought over, funded it, advertised it, and that could have been a nice game on the Switch. But in the end, you couldn't even secure a version of Call of Duty. Not even Call of Duty. I mean, someone name me some unreleased big-name third-party title that is coming to the Switch. Mass Effect Andromeda? Cyberpunk? Come on, something, anything. Because, yeah, you have a few Japanese games sprinkled here and there and coming out in the future, but this thing is actually worse off at launch than the Wii U when it comes to Western third-party support. And its launch. Oh my god. This might be the worst launch of all time. Even worse than the Wii U. I mean, you have Zelda, which will most likely and undoubtedly be a good game. A game you can also get on the Wii U. You have 1-2 Switch. How do games like this get funded? Super Bomberman R, that would be good as a handheld game. Never hating on Bomberman. Bomberman on Super Nintendo, Saturn, Genesis, N64 whatever. Bomberman is always my shit. Skylanders, and then you have a Kid Smooth favorite, Just Dance. So let me repeat that launch lineup for you. Zelda, 1-2 Switch, Bomberman, Skylanders, and Just Dance. Like, you can't make this up. If a Nintendo hater came out and said, outside of Zelda, I'm going to create my own fictional launch lineup that is going to make fun and sabotage the Switch, this is what it would be. And guess what? That's what Nintendo created. I mean, that is it. That is your launch lineup. Does this lineup show that third parties have any faith in this machine? Unfortunately, no. But don't worry. Next month you'll have Has-Been Heroes and Snipper Clips. Like, Snipper Clips. Like, really? Snipper Clips. Find footage of this game and just really bang your head against your desk and facepalm in despair. Fast Racing RMX could be good, but we all know an F-Zero would be much, 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 much better. Then you have ARMS, which looks like a total joke. Have fun buying an $80 controller just for 2 people to play together. I mean, you really have people like Blandrew and Trey saying, oh, people are just hating. Once they try it, they're going to love. No. Absolutely not. That game looks so stupid. Like, oh man, how the mighty have fallen. Like, just go back to the N64 and just look at all the amazing games Nintendo and their studios and their partners have come out with. And now we're regulated to ARMS and Snipper Clips. And I'm pretty sure they'll have DLC and it'll be legs and, heads and fingers and like, oh my goodness. I'm so glad I got my brother a PlayStation 4 because, oh my God, what an embarrassment. You have another Splatoon, and if Splatoon's your thing, it's not my thing. Hey, more power to you. And yes, another Mario game. A 3D Mario in light of Super Mario Galaxy, which is good. Mario games are always good. Super Mario Sunshine was the worst Mario game, and hell, even that was good. And granted, Mario looks good, it's just another Mario. And Mario games are well past their prime and their time of convincing people to go one way or the other when it comes to purchasing a Nintendo console. As for the future, there's Xenoblade Chronicles 2, there's Shin Megami Tensei, which literally just started development, so that kind of sucks. There's Dragon Quest 11, I'll just get that on my 3DS, but there's Xenoblade Chronicles 2, and I should be excited about that game. I should be emphatic. But after that absolute disaster that was the second most disappointing game, the first being King of Fighters 12, that I have ever played in my entire life, in my entire history of gaming, Xenoblade Chronicles X was the most disappointing game I've ever played. Not saying it's the worst game, but after the biblical masterpiece that was Xenoblade Chronicles on the Wii, if you have not played that game, it is the best game of last generation. You need to play it. But going from a masterpiece to Xenoblade Chronicles X was just, it was an utter disappointment. I can't recommend Xenoblade Chronicles X to anybody. And Monolith, you will not get a pass with this game. And as far as I'm concerned, that game is nothing worthwhile until I'm proven otherwise. You have to reprove yourself and earn your respect back after that disaster of a game. So, once again, we have Nintendo with yet another overpriced and underpowered console that is still yet to rectify any of the shortcomings their prior machines have suffered post-Super Nintendo. Please, let's go down the list of all of the issues, all of the complaints people have had about Nintendo post-Super Nintendo until now. It doesn't target the core gamer. It doesn't have many adult games. It suffers in third-party support. It suffers in first-party support. There's a lack of overall games. The online isn't that good. The features aren't robust. And you look at the Switch. Has the Switch rectified any of those? Has the Switch rectified a solid stream of first-party games? No. Has the Switch rectified an extreme lack of third-party support? No. Has the Switch rectified Nintendo's childish image and, secured more titles for more mature, adult, grown-up, whatever you call gamers? No. Have the features of the Switch, has that been rectified? Yes, you can take pictures, but can you stream? Can you play HD videos and 4K videos? Will it have the features up to par with the competition? It'll probably be improved from the Wii U, but again, they're not going to rectify that either. And as far as the online goes, they're not off to a good start. Charging to play online, charging for a stupid app, again, all of the past problems Nintendo has had post-Super Nintendo with their consoles, first party, third party, delays, steady stream of games, online, features, hardware, power, consistency. The Switch has not alleviated or rectified any of these. So why should people have to buy into inferior overpriced hardware to play these games when Nintendo could simply concentrate on making games without this handicap that is their own environment, that is their own hardware? The machine does not look like Nintendo's Saber. In all honesty, it looks like Nintendo's in. And quite frankly, honestly, truthfully, not even lying, I honestly wish it was. So again, Nintendo could make games and concentrate on making games in a handicap-free environment as opposed to restricting themselves to, yet again, more stupid gimmicks, more underpowered hardware, and again, online that is just flat out incompetent. Oh, and before I end this video, let me tell you what the most disappointing thing about this presentation actually was. And I predicted it, and it came true. Not surprisingly, because apparently this studio doesn't make games anymore. They came out with Donkey Kong in 2010 and Tropical Damage Control in 2014. And in 7 years, they've given us nothing but Donkey Kong. And in the last 3 years, they've given us nothing but nothing. So, Nintendo, where is Retro Studios? What is Retro Studios making? Apparently for the Wii U, they were making some awesome in-house engine that would compete with the Unreal Engine and make some awesome stellar graphics. But again, that never happened. I am utterly convinced that Retro Studios is no more, that they are absolutely doing nothing. The fact that, Suda51 can get on stage and talk about No More Heroes, even though the game probably hasn't even started development, the fact that, they can show Shin Megami Tensei and a concept and say, hey, we are just now starting development, but Retro Studios goes completely unannounced, genre TBA, platform TBA, year TBA, producer TBA, director TBA, title unannounced. Hell, Retro could be working on a 3DS title, not even a Switch title. We wouldn't even know, because as far as I'm concerned, Retro Studios up until this point, right now, until they unveil and show something, simply does not exist.